Hey everyone, NW Order for Life here with Seven Deadly Sins Episode 5 review. Episode starts off with Meliodas poisoned from the previous episode in the doctor's office in this new village, and the Holy Knight Golgius, I think it is Golgius. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Golgius. I think that's his name. He is trying to you know trying to get the princess to come. Whatever. Hawk tries to get in the way. Hawk gets kicked, whatever. Then he notices the sword on Meliodas' back, and he tries to grab the sword. And we get a flashback of Bon trying to. Well, first of all, when he's trying to get the sword in Golgius, Meliodas is still holding on to it, even though he's asleep. And he's like, poisoned, like supposedly dead from the poison. And then we see a flashback of Meliodas and Bon, and they're like in a campfire or whatever, and Diane is sleeping, and Bond is like saying, "Hey, Captain, I want to see that sword of yours." And basically, he's Captain's like, "No, Meliodas is like, no, I don't. I'll get really angry if you take this sword, Bond." And so Bond was like, "Oh, I really got to take it now because I really want to see, the captain angry." And I don't know if Bond. I think Bond is like drunk a little bit, but even if he wasn't drunk, probably wouldn't be that much different. And Bond tries to take the sword, and Meliodas just slashes him like you don't see it. You just see Bond get thrown back and the cut like all over his face and the blood. And Meliodas is like, "Sorry, Bond, but this is something I can never let go of. This sword. This is my sin. I to repent. I have to, whatever." And or maybe that's the Golgius, he says it, because the Bond is just like, wow. So this is the side of you I'd never known before. And it's like he's loving it. He's like licking his lips and like, wow, crazy. Like, so Bond is kind of nuts, but he loves the fact that there's like this darker side of the captain he didn't know, and that's obviously how Bond got his scar. And then because normal attacks aren't enough to damage like Bond's body. I mean, we've seen him be impaled, and there's absolutely no damage when he takes the spike out or whatever. So back to the president. Golgius is trying to get the sword, and he does. And then as soon as he takes the sword out of the supposedly dead Meliodas' hand, Meliodas jumps up from the bed, grabs the sword, and says that he can never get rid of this, let go of that sword because it's his sin, and he made a promise to someone or whatever, and this is how he atones for his sins. And so everyone's kind of shocked that Meliodas is alive. Meliodas like looks at Golgius and threatens him with like this death stare, like it's like his eyes kind of go blackish purple, and you see this symbol on his head, and like he's just staring at him, and Golgius flees, and the doctor fleed as well. So they go outside, and Hawk is trying to track down Golgius, because so Meliodas can get information out of him, and find out who sent him to assassinate and whatever. And the doctor and Golgius, is pretending to surrender and tries like this assassination technique from behind with these blades. Meliodas blocks them perfectly, and then the doctor sees Golgius from like down the hill, and he's like, "Sir Golgius, please, I did what you asked. I poisoned him. Please let me see my daughter. Please release my daughter." And then Golgius disappears, and then like a minute or so later reappears where the doctor is, and he's like, "Don't worry, I'll let you see your daughter." And Meliodas is like, "Look out," because Meliodas can sense where Golgius was going, and he's like, "You'll see her, in the afterlife once I send her there." And he stabs the doctor in the chest, and Elizabeth runs out to the doctor, and Golgius appears there and tries to kill Elizabeth. And Meliodas is constantly blocking Golgius, who is teleporting, as he says. And but then Hawk says something like, "Oh, like I can't, like even though I can't really smell him too well when he moves." And so Meliodas thinks to himself, "Wait a minute, if he's teleporting, you shouldn't be able to smell him at all." So Meliodas realizes that in actuality, what the guy is doing is he's making himself invisible and then reappearing. So Meliodas lures him to a abandoned building with Elizabeth and Hawk, and he goes into a small room and he sees that the floor is weak, and he kind of like makes a cut, like I guess enough of a cut on the floor where we can't really see that he cut the floor. We just saw him do something with his wrist, and he's like, "Oh, it's a magic trick." But I think basically what he did was just cut an outline into the floor or something. The floor was already weak, but he probably cut it just enough so any kind of pressure on it would cause it to collapse. And so Meliodas is just waiting there, and then um, Golgius appears behind Meliodas, and he's like, "Nope, I got you." And Golgius falls into the basement of the abandoned building, and Meliodas, catches up with him and hits him and hurts him, whatever. And then as Elizabeth and Hawk are talking with Meliodas, like you see a horse come running into the town, and Golgius jumps on the horse and gets out of there. He escapes, and and then we see, then Elizabeth goes back to the doctor. He dies, which I don't know how he wasn't dead in the first place because he got stabbed quite a while ago, like right to the chest. He should have bled out by then. But Elizabeth is able to talk to him a little bit, and he says he just wanted to do it. He just wanted to protect his daughter. That's all he wanted to do, protect his daughter. And then Meliodas and Elizabeth run into Diane, and Diane is like, she looks like she's a little spaced out, and then she sees the captain. She's like, "Captain, what are you doing here?" And and he's like, "Wait, didn't you go to?" I don't know if Elizabeth said like Lady Diane, didn't you go to the base, wherever Bond is being held? I forget what it's called. And weren't you? And she's like, "Huh? I did." Like, and she's all spaced out, and then all of a sudden Melody turns into this holy knight person, and Elizabeth and Hawk are gone, and you see Deanne like get enraged. She starts trying to fight him, and then we see that Meliodas, Elizabeth, and Hawk are still there, and Deanne is trying to fight them, and she can't hear anything or see anything but this holy knight, which I believe is called Ruin, I think his name is, and then they run into these shepherds while they're running away. This man, his son, I believe. And Meliodas tells him to hide there while he goes deal with what Deanne is doing. And then Meliodas sees Deanne as the Holy Knight Ruin, a giant Holy Knight Ruin, and he starts fighting her, and they're fighting, and Elizabeth doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what's going on. And then we have another one of the weird Fang Knights, overlooking it, laughing, and she's like, "Oh, I should join in soon." And then we have Bond in the, or we have a bunch of knights or not knights, soldiers, whatever, in the place where Bond is being held, and Jericho. The subs are calling her Jericho, but I believe in the manga her name was Jellico, unless one of them is the wrong translation. I prefer to go with Jellico. I think it sounds cooler and it sounds more. I can kind of see it more as a girl name than Jericho. So Jellico is revealed to be a woman, and she's in her bras and panties and on the wall covering up and giving the soldiers orders, and they're like all blushing, and they're all like, "Wow," and she's like, "Go now," and she's all dying of embarrassment, and we just see a little flashback of where Bond is like, "This armor doesn't suit you," and he just strips her of her armor, and she's like, "I'll get you for this humiliation, Bond." And then Bond is seen like going through her armor, and he's like, "Ah, it doesn't fit. That sucks. I really liked her armor." And then this other holy knight appears before Bond, and he's like, "Where do you think you're going, Bond?" Like with this dark, like mystic voice. He's like, "Don't you remember I caught you 5 years ago? And this time you're gonna die, Bond." And he uses it's like metal. I don't know, some kind of metal pipe or whatever. It's kind of the things that Bond was when Bond was in the room in prison. He had those spikes in his arms and everything, like those metal spikes. Like it seems like this guy can make those metal spikes. This Holy Knight guy, and Bond gets impaled, and he's like shocked for a second and looking scared or whatever, and then he just laughs it, and he's like, like and that's how the episode ends. Basically, Bond is not too concerned, and most likely Bond allowed himself to get captured 5 years ago because he has absolutely no fear of this guy. So yeah, I went a little long, but a lot of stuff happened in the episode. Really good. Bond is a badass. Meliodas is cool with his character development. His Elizabeth is all right. She kind of like Meliodas had this like moment with her where they talked about like um, not losing resolve just because somebody died. They're gonna do whatever it takes to complete their mission. So Elizabeth had character development. And even Hawk had a type of character development a little bit, really. I didn't want to talk about too much, but and Diane looks good in fighting. It was a good episode, good fights, good plot development, badassery all around. I give it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, thanks for watching this review. Sorry, it's 11 minutes, but as lots to talk about. So yeah, rate, comment below about whatever you want in the episode and characters, and subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future. Thank you, and have a good night.